This is a very basic but crucial question that I would like to ask you. When was the last time you went into your attic? If you don't have one, have you ever entered your parents' or grandparents' attic? This is because attics are used to store items that are intended to be preserved or simply kept out of the way, and as a result, over time, items that truly amaze or horrify people can be found there. Here are some of the scariest things that people have seen in attics over the years. Number 1. Now, look, I'm not exactly comfortable talking about this one. Talking about haunted dolls, but I actually have to talk about this because it's been written for me to do so. So, buckle up, urban explorers. If I'm being really honest, these people can't be the brightest of sparks if they're going to be posting videos of themselves exploring attics, and as they rummage around, they discover a doll. If it was just an ordinary old doll, there wouldn't be much to discuss, maybe a jump scare, depending on its condition, but sadly, as you've probably guessed, that won't be the case because this particular doll was discovered hanging from the ceiling in an awkward position, and it also seemed to be spinning around by itself via its noose, which was actually quite unsettling for the urban explorers. This naturally raises a number of questions, not the least of which is regarding the condition of the doll, as someone clearly had to put it up on that string. It might have been an accident of sorts, that is, that it was in a different position entirely and then fell to the attic where it needed to be hung later, but that is obviously impossible to prove. As a result, the mystery of why the doll was left in the attic in that manner persists, and I'm okay with not knowing the answer. Number 2. I'm going to spice things up a bit this time around because, to put it simply, a man found a snake in his attic. Now, here's the funny part, the snake was discovered in an estate in the United States. This is typical of Florida, after all. In Florida, a man entered his attic and discovered that he was staring down a boa constrictor. Well, sort of. The snake was discovered because it had poked its head through the house's ceiling, forcing the man to enter the attic to see it for himself. Naturally, he called animal control, but they were hesitant to take an aggressive approach because they believed it to be a diamondback rattlesnake, which is extremely dangerous and venomous if you don't know. The man's wife posted pictures of the snake online until someone came and took it, revealing that it was actually a Colombian red-tailed boa, which is not poisonous. Fortunately, it wasn't as large as some boa constrictors that you've probably seen. The snake was only about 6 feet long, which is obviously more than enough to terrify any homeowner. However, the bad news is that the person who removed the snake from the attic discovered that it had been there for years because they found the snake's shed skin. The man also thought that the snake survived for a very long time by feeding on the rats that lived in the attic. How did the snake get into the attic in the first place? Well, the trees. Number 3. Joe Cummings in Manhattan, New York experienced a horror movie. Have you ever noticed something missing from your home and were unable to figure out what happened to it? It seemed like someone else was there stealing all of your belongings. This is exactly what happened to Joe Cummings. He first noticed strange activities in his home in 2009, not the least of which was that food was being taken and that someone was using the bathroom in the sink. Disgusting. Finally, he became so paranoid that he installed a camera in his kitchen and watched for events. What he saw was something that no one had ever seen before. That's because a woman descended from the attic, used the sink, searched the kitchen, watched television, and only returned to the attic once Joe started to show up. It's very horrific reading on YouTube to hear Joe say he had no idea how she had gotten in there and that the only way in was through the window because he's on the top floor and there's a fire escape. The police believed that she was likely coming in to rob him when he was gone and just chose to stay in the crawl space. Now, supposedly, this isn't the first time the police have encountered something similar. And that can be supported by the numerous stories and cases of people living in hidden rooms or hiding inside homes because they had nowhere else to go. Fortunately, Joe had the evidence he needed to get the police to apprehend her and provide him some peace of mind, that is, until something goes wrong again and he wonders if the woman is back. Because horror films do indeed have sequels. Number 4. The last animal, excluding the woman who was in the attic, was actually kind of a model tenant. If you think about it, it solved the homeowner's rat problem for years, didn't bother them for years, and so on. However, for this person, they didn't get the best tenant because they got a set of raccoons. For the record, raccoons have a bit of a bad reputation due to the trash panda persona that many people like to create around them. You can see how they completely destroyed the place, leaving quite a mess in their wake, but the worst part is undoubtedly the manure that they had left behind, all of which appeared to be infected with roundworm. Meaning that the homeowners had to get rid of it or else risk others becoming infected, not the least of whom was themselves. Why the raccoons behaved in this way is a mystery, but one thing that is certain is that the family will never look at those masked bandits in a positive light again, because those memories, along with the smell of everything they left behind, will probably never fade. Number 5. Now, to be honest, while having raccoons in your attic can be dangerous due to the chaos and destruction they can cause, in Omaha, one couple found themselves in danger when they discovered that thousands of bees were living in their attic. The worst part is that their neighbors were the only ones who told them about the bees. They only found out because they noticed honey dripping from the side of their house. That ought to demonstrate just how large it was. The reason the bees would be in the attic actually makes perfect sense when you understand their behavior. They typically want to build their hive in places that are under control, and they can truly be safe in an attic since it is far away from any elements and predators, so that works for them. The neighbors had noticed bees around the chimney that would be flying now. They heard a loud, rhythmic buzzing as they entered the attic and saw the honeycomb directly beneath the ceiling. It was a large swarm and a large nest, and it was a little frightening since they knew what that meant. What they did well was to call in the experts, roofers. Yes, their neighborhood roofers could handle the bee problem because they had a beekeeper on staff, proving that bees and attics are more common than you may imagine. The bees were safely removed, and the homeowners received some honey to help with their problems. Just keep in mind, though, that if you do happen to spot a hive in your attic, you should remain calm because the insects will want you to act in a particular fashion. That's all from spooky mysteries that lurk in our attics. Have you ever found anything shocking in your attic before? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.